I'd like for you to imagine just for a moment that you have a magic wand in your hand. And if you could wave that magic wand and change one behavior in either yourself or someone else, what would that one behavior be? What would you want to change? Just a behavior in either yourself or someone else. How would you influence that change? And when we talk about influence, the power to change almost anything, we define influence as the ability to change our own behavior or someone else's. And that's a powerful concept if we can really grab around it. How do you change not only our behavior, but someone else's? What would you change? Why is it that we're not better at influence, at changing? We have the unrealistic expectation that people will change even when the consequences for not changing are enormous. Everyone knows the consequences, and the change required is relatively simple. Did you know that over 90% of coronary bypass patients 2 years after surgery have gone back to their poor eating habits? 2 out of 3 criminals are rearrested in a very short time. In your state, the department that handles the jails is called what? The Department of Corrections. And yet 2 out of 3 we're not correcting. Okay. How many people here on a regular basis, I'm talking daily, floss your teeth? A show of hands. Yeah. Relatively few number. Research says that people who floss daily add 10 years to their lives. Wow. How hard is it to floss? Pretty hard, isn't it? Takes about 20, 30 seconds a night. We know the consequences. Change is simple, and we know the consequences of not changing. And yet people don't floss. That's amazing. So our point is, our world is organized to create the behavior you're currently experiencing. As a good boy growing up in the South, for whatever reasons, I began in my early 20s to do Skoal chewing tobacco. You know the can? I got to the point where I was doing a can of Skoal a day for 18 years. Did I know the consequences of what I was doing? Absolutely. I pick up the can, and what does it say on it? This could possibly kill you. Don't care, I'm going to do it. We behave in exactly the way we need to get the results that we get. Was change relatively simple? Absolutely. Now I tell you, I tried several times to change, to stop, but that addiction is very strong, particularly with the nicotine and the oral fixation. But stopping actually is a very simple act. I just don't buy it. I just don't put it in my mouth. And yet for 18 years, I continued to do a can a day. What I want to share briefly with you is what we call the 6-source model. And it helps us look at why people do what they do or don't do what they do. If you look at the first 2 columns, we have motivation and an ability. Is it a motivation issue? Am I motivated to do it? Or is it an ability issue? Maybe I don't have the skills, the ability. Okay. And then along the side, we see the 3 sources of influence: personal, social, and structural. Source 1 and 2, personal motivation and ability. Am I personally motivated? Do I have the personal ability? You know, I would love to be able to fly a plane. I may be highly motivated to do that, but I'll never be able to at this point because I don't have the ability. Even if somebody put a gun to my head and said, fly this plane, I could not do it. And then we look at social influence. Source 3 says, do others motivate me? Source 4 says, do others give me the ability? Do they enable me to do something or not do it? And then structural, source 5 and 6, are there things in my non-human environment, structurally, that motivate me? Or source 6, are there things that enable me, non-human factors? Several years ago, I was fortunate enough to have a wonderful administrative assistant named Patty. Patty worked for me for several years and was in her mid-30s. Patty was married with a couple of small children. Patty and her husband had smoked for almost 20 years of their life. Patty, though, wanted to quit. Patty had tried everything. She had tried to go cold turkey. She had tried patches. She tried gum. She tried a variety of medications. Nothing worked. And when we look at someone like Patty, a lot of times we make what's called a fundamental attribution error. We assume that the only reason Patty doesn't stop smoking is source 1, personal motivation. She just doesn't want to. And that wasn't the case. And what happens when we do that, we think it's only source 1, is we ignore the other 5 sources of influence. Well, one day there was another vice president in my office, and we were talking, and he was getting ready to leave, and he saw Patty there, and she had her cigarettes out. And he stopped, and he said, "Patty, I have a proposition to make to you." He said, "If you give me your cigarettes right now," this was in the middle of February, he said, "if you give me your cigarettes right now and you go cold turkey, in 2 weeks, at the end of February, if you have stopped smoking, I will give you $250. And at the end of March, if you have still remained smoke-free, the money's yours. But if you've started smoking again, you have to give me the money back." Well, I overheard this, and I said, "You know what, Patty? I want to get in on this. I'll double that. I will also give you $250 if you give up the cigarettes right now, go cold turkey. And in 2 weeks, it's yours. At the end of March, if you've remained smoke-free, you have $500. Well, another vice president heard about this, and he came in and he said, "Patty, I'm going to contribute as well." So now Patty, if she gave up her cigarettes, had $750. Patty turns the cigarettes over to us. At the end of 2 weeks, at the end of February, Patty was smoke-free. But one of the things she had done, she had gone around to all of her friends who she used to take smoke breaks with and said, "I stopped smoking, don't ask me. I stopped smoking, don't even ask me. Don't ask me, I stopped smoking." At the end of February, she comes to us and she says, "Don't give me the money yet. I want to make sure I can do this." So at the end of March, after 6 weeks, Patty was smoke-free. Patty now had $750. One thing I need to share with you, though, is one of the things Patty had always wanted was to be able to take her children to the beach. Patty's kids had never seen the ocean. Patty and her husband had a tight economic situation. They didn't have a lot of excess money that they could spend on a vacation. They couldn't afford to take the kids to the beach. But if you peel apart the six-source model, you'll see all six sources sort of coming into play. Something else that Patty was trying to do is her husband had high cholesterol. She was trying to not only encourage him, motivate him to stop smoking, but to eat better and healthier foods. And his argument was, well, we can't really afford them. A lot of times they're more expensive. And she then countered and tried to get him to understand that if he stopped smoking, the money that they both had been spending on cigarettes could be taken to eat a healthier lifestyle. So that's the story. Source one is that she finally stopped smoking. She was personally motivated to. And when I tell this story, a lot of times people jump to source five. That's the rewards. Oh yeah, it was the money that motivated her. I don't think it was really the money. The money enabled her to do what she really truly wanted to do, what was in her personal values. She wanted to take her kids to the beach. That's source one. Source two was the fact that she was able to give up the cigarettes. Source three, she had a circle of friends who now not only didn't ask her to go smoke, but they encouraged her. People would see her in the hall and they'd say, "Patty, keep up the good work. You're doing great. We're proud of you." Particularly her two children said, "Mom, we are so glad you stopped smoking. We're proud of you." Okay? They motivated her socially to continue. You look at source four. Was there anything in her social structure that might enable her or to quit smoking or to keep smoking? Well, the fact that her husband smoked was a source four. Source five, of course, was the money. And source six, the fact that maybe she could see the cigarettes laying around at home were a temptation. So what we find in our research is that when we only look at one source of influence and try and change not only our behavior, but someone else's behavior, we miss powerful, powerful leveraging skills in the other five sources. So I encourage you, if you have that magic wand and you're trying to change not only a behavior in yourself, but in someone else, consider all six sources, and you're going to be able to wave that wand and get the behavior change, not only in yourself, but in other people as well. Thanks, and have a blessed day.